Salutations, my name is Summer and this is Sterling Reads, and I am on a quest to find my favorite book. I have had people ask me my whole life, what is your favorite book? And if you're a rereader, then you know books that you loved years ago. Rereading them, you feel differently about them. Sometimes you love them even more, sometimes not so much. Sometimes there's flaws or there's stories that were new to you and now they've been told a million times. And I always try to take into consideration, like, when was this book written? Was it brand new to the genre back then? So yeah, I have a big stack of books that I would like to talk about because I was hoping for you guys to help me with recommendations. I'm going to be rereading quite a few books that I think of as favorites, but I'm not sure if they're really favorites anymore. So that's what I plan on spending the rest of my year doing, is this quest to find my favorite book. So that way when somebody asks me, at least I'll have a better idea of what it is. Or yeah, it would be nice to have a favorite book to be able to say that. So how this all came about, besides people asking me what my favorite book is, and I just don't know. Angie and Deanna, we have been reading, I'll link their channels down below. We have been reading Cold Mountain by Charles Fraser. I have always considered him as a favorite author. This is a reread, which I have read many times, and I am now on page 298. And it's not a favorite. It's beautiful writing. I love the story. I love the intense feelings, the scenery, but it's a little slower than I would choose for a favorite. There's, I don't know, it's like he gets sidetracked off of all these other stories about people, which I kind of like, I kind of don't. So that had me thinking about all these other books that I consider as favorites. Are they really favorites now that I'm in my 40s? So we'll see. And I am definitely going to continue with my reread with Angie and Deanna. Okay, so let me tell you what I don't want and what I do want. I'm going to go by what I have on the stack instead of like in my head necessarily. So we'll see how this goes. On my stack, I have The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. I have read this many times. The Hobbit has always been my favorite. The reason why this doesn't work as a favorite for me, oh my goodness, well, come here. You guys can't see them. It's Rollo. Okay, the reason why this doesn't work for me is because the singing. I don't know what it is. I love singing. I love hearing people sing. I love music, but there's something about the singing in these books that drive me crazy. And you would think, Summer, you can skim over the singing. I can't. I'm always looking for like a deeper meaning. What are the lyrics of the song? What does it mean? I do that when I listen to music. I apparently do that when I read songs. And there is no deeper meaning to the songs in these stories. If there is, please let me know, because I cannot find it. And it's something that I don't know why it drives me crazy. So even though this is a fantastic story, I enjoy the series, it is not a favorite for me. Also, my favorite book, I do not want it to be a part of the series. I have many books that are in series here to talk about, but that is one of my issues. I don't want it to be from a series. Two other books that are from a series, when I said that's not what I want, one of them is The Bastard by John Jakes. This is the first book in his Kent family? I can't remember, but I've read the first two books, and I want to say there's 9 of them. They're great reads. They're historical fiction. They're talking about the revolution. It starts out right before the Revolutionary War in the United States. Lots of drama, but I don't want a book that has every single thing that could possibly happen. Does that make any sense? It's like anything that could go wrong goes wrong, and it's one thing after another. And I'm not a big fan of that. And it being a series, once I got to the third book, it's a part of a family line, and I don't like these two characters. I'm not looking forward to hearing about them. It's like the children of two other people. So I haven't picked it up, but I will. I'll finish it. Another book that is pretty much the exact same thing. This is The Solitude of Wolverines by Alice Henderson. I loved this trilogy. She has another book coming out maybe next month. Maybe it's April. And I'm definitely going to be reading it. But I can't say this is a favorite because it's too action-packed. Very suspenseful. Mystery, suspense will not be a favorite book for me because I love to reread. And once you know the story in a suspense novel or a mystery, that seems to take over, wherein like a historical fiction book or some other type, just literary fiction, you can reread it and it seems that doesn't matter. But great series. Cannot say it's a favorite book because it's a series and because it's too much stuff. So I reread this whole series last year. Loved it. I even read all the little novellas and short stories that she had stuck in there through the years that I had never read in order. And what is the first book? The first book is Dead Until Dark. I just grabbed one from the series. This is Club Dead by Charlene Harris. This is a Sookie Stackhouse series. Again, it's a series, but also I want a book that, my mom's downstairs in the kitchen, so if you hear banging, if you hear the ice cubes, yeah, she's down there doing that. Anyway, Club Dead, all of these, you would think she's like really banging something, but I swear she's just breaking ice cubes up. But yeah, this series I loved, but it's not, I want my favorite book to be entertaining, yet to be challenging. And these were perfect for me at the time I was reading them because they were not challenging at all. They were just like a fun ride, and I really needed that at the time. So they were great for that, but they are not a favorite. Let's talk about some Jane Austen. And I have these gorgeous editions, and I'm not even sure. I want to say they're probably UK editions, but I don't think they are. Okay, Mansville Park. I love Jane Austen. I love reading about her life. I love reading her novels. I've read all of them. Mansville Park will never be a favorite because, you know what? I guess there's going to be spoilers in this video when I'm talking about these books. Sorry, I should have said that in the beginning. But Mansville Park, the romance in it, so the film was fine because it had Johnny Lee Miller, but the book, his character, I'm like, what are you thinking? I do love Fanny. I do love our main character. I wish my mom would finish with the ice cube trays. Who knew someone needed so much ice? But that's why that's not a favorite. Pride and Prejudice. This is the one I have read the most. This is the one where it's not a favorite because the ending. I don't know why she felt the need to do the whole happily ever after. They're gonna get married. I mean, you can say all those things, but her having to, thought I heard Randall, you gonna come up? Anyway, I hated that she had to tell us. Or like actually tell you step by step of what happened. I wish it would have just been like, off in the sunset and not giving all those details. But Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen is so witty and smart and funny. There's so many great characters. And Elizabeth Bennet's father, I just love him too. I just love all these characters. But yeah, it wouldn't be a favorite because of the ending. Like I need a satisfying ending. Another thing, okay, so the last Jane Austen I'm going to talk about is Persuasion. I always think of this as being my favorite because I do love the romance in here. I love how, you know, the I'm in half agony, half hope, the letter by Captain Wentworth to Anne Elliot. It's just fantastic. So I love all that. And I do like romance. I do not want my favorite book is not going to be a romance book though, because I need a lot more than just a love story. Hi. Got Randall here. I wish I had the camera like set up so that you guys could actually see my babies. But anyway, love Persuasion. I still would have to say it's my favorite, but it's not my favorite book. It's my favorite Austen. You want to come up here? Okay, well, I have Stephen King up next. So whenever anybody asks what's my favorite Stephen King, I always say Lisey's Story. Because Lisey's Story has these heartbreaking, heart-wrenching scenes. Okay, here comes Rollo too. And it's all about a relationship. It's a husband and wife. He's a writer. He passes on, and it's her life without him. And now I'm covered in Rollo and Randall's hair. And then one of his fans, crazy fans, come after her, wanting to know if there's any extra stories that haven't been published that he's written. Her husband. So I always love it. It's not a favorite book, though. It's always been my favorite King. I do believe he might have a book that could be my favorite that I have read a couple times, and that is Misery. Misery, the characters, that's the whole thing. I have to feel something for characters, you know. I don't have to love the characters. Maybe I just want to hate the characters, but I have to feel something for the characters. And this is Rollo, and he's the cutest baby. But also the story of being a famous writer. And I can't remember if he's drinking in the book. I'm pretty sure he's drinking in the book. I know Paul Sheldon is drinking in the movie. And he slides off the road into a ditch during a snowstorm. And of course, Annie Wilkes comes to rescue him. And she is his #1 fan. I love anything extra that King gives us when he writes his little story, his like little note to the constant reader. I love that personal touch that he gives us. Yeah, so King is a favorite. I will be rereading this to see how I feel about it now, but it could be a favorite, absolute favorite of mine. Okay, Rollo, let's not show anybody your butt. Okay. I always feel like if I have a favorite, it will be historical fiction, because I just love anything that you can give me a story, but you can also tell me about the way it was to live at a certain time, you know, what was going on in society, what was going on in the world, how people had to live. One of my favorites from the past was Inez of My Soul by Isabel Allende. I believe the 2 L's sounds like a Y. This is historical fiction about a woman named Inez, and it starts off in the 1500s in Chile, and it's about her and one of the men that, when she falls hard. She's very passionate. I remember that. And I read this in like 2006, 2007. One of the men she has a relationship with, I believe they're the ones that build up the city of Santiago. I think. This is another one that I will be rereading. I'm curious to how I'm going to enjoy the love story and how passionate feelings she has for these men because of things that have changed in my life. So we will see how I like it. Another one that I feel like I've always thought of it as one of my favorites. Here it is, a series. Also, I wanted to show you this other edition that I found at the flea market a long time ago. But the series I'm talking about is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. This is what the book originally... Sorry, I set my alarm so that way I would be awake. I'm a third shifter and it's my day off. But anyway, so Outlander, this is of course, the 20th anniversary edition, but this is what it was originally. Sorry, his tail keeps like knocking into the thing. This is the original UK edition. It was called Cross Stitch, and he just realizes there is a ribbon. And so look how I'm always interested when they change titles to books. Anyway, this story, when I read it, it wrecked me. The whole series, I'm up to date with the last book of, it's not the final book. I believe she's giving us one more, but I am up to date on this series. Now, the Lord John series, I have not been up to date with. I've read a couple of those, which they're more kind of, I always think of them as more of like adventure. This is historical fiction. This is a fantastic love story. Rollo is being so lovey-dovey right now. But it's a series. And also I had a hard time because when I was reading this, I was way too emotional about it. If Jamie and Claire were fighting, I couldn't stop reading until they were okay. And now I feel like I'm covered in cat hair. If they were separated for some reason by distance, like at one point they go to France, I would be a mess. I would be it's like I was in this relationship. But anyway, I absolutely love this series, but I couldn't call it a favorite book because number one, it's a series, and number two, it had me way too emotionally invested in this relationship. But it was so good. Another book, which I love Ken Follett's Kingbridge series. I just have to read one more book to be caught up with his Kingbridge. This is the Century Trilogy, and I love this, but here it is. It's a trilogy. It's historical fiction. I believe you follow like 5 different families, and the thing I love about this more than anything is that each family is from a different country, and you have families like I believe you have an English woman who falls in love with a German man, and this is a time when you can't do that. That would be like she was disowned. You have the Russians, their side, the Americans side. I believe you have people from Cuba, like I said, Germany, people from the UK. Anyway, you get to hear different sides during the wars. And I love that because it's so easy for people to judge and be like, this is how it was, and this person's bad, this person's good, when we're all people, and most of us are trying to, most of us are trying to do the best that we can. Do you want to show your face? He's like, not really. So I love that. I love that, it's showing the human side of all of us. Let's see what else we got here. Here's another series. Best series. I could almost say this is my favorite book, but then which one would I choose in the series? This is the second book, which is what I'll be rereading soon, A Clash of Kings. I cannot say it's my favorite because it is a series. And which one would you say is your favorite? But George R.R. Martin, I love his writing. I love his character development. Oh my goodness. It's like the best character development ever. There are characters that I hate in the first book. In the second book, I'm like, maybe they're not so bad. And like the third book, I love the character I hated. And there are characters I still hate, but I love to hate them. Jamie is like a perfect example of the hate turning to love in these, because yeah, I hated Jamie's character. I'm not going to give spoilers about that because you guys know what he did and what type of man he was. Okay, so listen, he did horrible things, but he did great things too. And I don't want to, I already have given some spoilers away, but how he loved the wrong person, right? But he was devoted to her. There was no doubt about that, even though he realized that she was horrible. He finally realized it. But anyway, yeah. And then, Tyrion, I loved him from the beginning. Fantastic character. Ned Stark, I loved. He was my #1 favorite. And then you guys know what happened. So, yeah. Okay. Another book that I love, but I haven't read it for a while, and I read the whole series, but I don't know, I kind of feel like it's a standalone, so I feel like maybe this one could, with how the writing is, I feel like this one could be a favorite, even though it is a series. I don't think most people know it's a series. I mean, I guess you guys do, but that's like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Douglas Adams left us way too soon. I just always think about what other books he could have given us. Sterling, please don't knock anything over. Yeah. And my cat Finchurch, who was over there sleeping. He's named after Arthur Dent's soulmate, Finchurch. Even though my cat's a boy, Finchurch is a girl in the book. I always thought of it as more as a masculine type name. This is one I will be rereading this year to see, how it goes. Okay, a book that I feel like is a perfect book. My favorite book would have to at least be 300 pages because like Claire Keegan, I love 2 of her novels I read last year. And Becky Chambers, I really enjoyed her Monk and the Robot, but they're too short. But anyway, so Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I read this last January with a couple of people, and it became a favorite. I only read it once, so that's why I'm kind of like, can you say a book is your favorite if you've only read it once? And I've only read this edition, which when I reread it, I want to read this edition again. And then I feel like the third time I read it, maybe I'll read another translation. I keep saying edition, I mean translation. And when I read it last year, I was taking it to work. And I had the Penguin Classic, the new one. This is translated by Christine Doniger. I think that's what we say. Her name is how it's pronounced. My book fell apart. I mean, pages. I was at work and pages started coming out of my book. So I bought this edition. So I've read this translation, but not this physical book. And so, yeah, I definitely want to reread that because it could be a perfect novel with those characters. And those characters there's so much depth to them. And I wanted to know more about certain characters that Victor Hugo didn't give me. And I've always been one way, like my favorite book has to be a standalone, but I kind of wish, like today, I know if he was writing it, he would probably have a little, short story or novella about certain characters to give us a little bit more because, I feel like his fans would have been asking for that kind of thing. So anyway, one more book. I have considered this book a favorite for years and years, but I don't know now. I'm going to have to reread it. I have read 8 books by John Steinbeck, and this was, I think I read The Pearl first, actually, before this, and I was not. The Pearl's okay. The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I love this. There were so many things that were powerful. I loved the writing. I loved the characters. I loved the journey and the struggles that the characters went through. Um, yeah, so yeah, things happened in this book that kind of blew my mind with how you think about humanity and how people treat people. But there was something that happened in a barn with a sister that was a type of love, that a giving of yourself that I had never really thought of. But anyway, yeah, there is also a chapter about a turtle crossing a road, and him, as he crosses, the heels of his feet grinding the wheat into the road, the dirt of the road, and I thought it was a beautiful chapter of a turtle. But that is another one that I plan to reread to see. Hopefully it's not like Cold Mountain, where I have it in my head that I've loved it for so long, and then when I reread it, I don't. Hopefully I continue to love it. The second John Steinbeck book that I loved was The Moon is Down, but it's so short that I feel like it can't be my favorite because of the length. I feel like length matters with books, at least in my mind. There's some fantastic short books and even novellas, but I always find myself wanting more if you don't give me at least 300 pages. So I'm going to look, I think, oh yeah, no memoirs, no nonfiction. I want a story that, I mean, historical fiction is fine, but I don't like judging something. It's like when it's real, I think of it as different. So it's like I read Alan Cummings' memoir last year, Not My Father's Son, and loved it. But it's a memoir, so I don't feel like it could be my favorite. I mean, that's just me. That's just me being, picky or whatever. So anyway, please tell me what your favorite book is. If you have a favorite, or if you have a couple that you're like, I don't know, I love this one for this, but I love this one for this, because that's probably what's going to happen to me. Also, recommendations. You guys have always been great about recommendations. I am going to have a stack of these books that I'm going to keep aside to reread this year, even though my reading has been very slow right now. I feel like eventually it'll pick up. I'll get my head straight a little bit better. So yeah, please let me know if you have any thoughts about any of these books, because I have read all of these, so you can't spoil anything for me. Let me know if you have any favorites, if any of these are your favorites, and recommendations, all that. Please let me know how you're doing. I hope you're all doing well. It's been very chilly today, and I am ready for spring. I'm ready for warm weather. My peach tree is in bloom. The magnolia next door was in bloom, and then it got too cold, and now it's dying. It's done that for like 3 years now. My pear tree is about ready. It's a bud. It has buds, but it's not blooming yet. It's such of a beautiful time of year in Ohio. So anyway, let me know how you are. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.